Welcome back to Rose Theatre Weekly. I'm your host, Christina Maroney, the theater teacher at RHS. Thank you for joining us this week. If this is your first time seeing Rose Theatre Weekly, you can check out all two other videos I have posted. One is from about a week ago, and the other is from this week, which is a middle school special edition. Middle schoolers, I know you have scheduling coming up soon, so if you're curious about getting involved or potentially getting involved in our theater department, check out that video. It'll tell you all you need to know. If you're looking for fun theater things to watch this week, I would really recommend checking out National Theater Live's YouTube channel. They are releasing, for a short time, their filmed production of Frankenstein. So in one production, Benedict Cumberbatch plays the creature, and Johnny Lee Miller plays Dr. Frankenstein. And in the other production, they switch roles. And so they're actually releasing both of these performances on their YouTube channel for 1 week only, starting today. And so if you have an opportunity, I would really recommend watching them both. They do recommend it for audiences 12 and up, so be aware of that. But the production value is amazing, and getting to see professional theater for free from your own home is a pretty rare opportunity, but a lot of places are providing that right now. So I hope you enjoy it if you watch it. This week, our theme is by request from several people. I'm going to be looking at some theater myths and legends. Some of these you may be familiar with, some maybe you've never heard of before, but that's what we're going to be diving into this week. The first legend, break a leg. The phrase, break a leg, where did it come from? Well, there are several potential places it came from. The one that I'm familiar with is back in the days of vaudeville, so 100 plus years ago, people would only get paid if they actually got on stage to perform, and there would be a lineup of people around the block who wanted that opportunity, but not everybody would get it. So you take that into consideration, and you also add to that when you have a proscenium stage, which is the picture frame kind, like we have at the Rose, you also have curtains that go like this, and those are called legs. So if you actually got to go on stage, you are going past where the edge of the leg is, the leg line, and so you are breaking a leg. So if you break a leg, that means you actually get to go on stage and you get paid for your work. So when you are wishing actors good luck, that's why we say break a leg. It means good job, you got on stage, you're making that money. Or not if you're volunteering, but you get the idea. This is one I had not heard of before. It is bad luck to whistle in a theater. Anybody heard of that? Okay, so the reason is, again, quite a while ago, the people who would run crew and run, rigging, so flying things in and out, were actually sailors originally. So you have these sailors who are now doing rigging and backstage work. And so what they would do, much like when they're at sea, is use coded whistles to cue each other when to fly things in and out. And this was all done by hand at the time with sandbags and things for waiting. So if you had, say, an actor backstage who was whistling, one of your stagehands might take that as a cue and drop a sandbag on your head or drop a piece of scenery, and that could hurt you or more than hurt you. So that's why, even though we don't still run the system that way, it's still bad luck to whistle in a theater. The next one, the green room. Why is it called a green room? Well, the short answer is we don't know. But there are several potential reasons for that, so I wanted to share some of those with you. The first one is based on a theater, the Blackfriars Theatre in London back in the 1500s. They had a room where the actors would wait before going on stage, and it was painted green. So it could be as simple as that. It could also be that the phrase green room is sort of a corruption of the phrase scene room, and that is where scenery would be stored when it wasn't in use, but it would also double as the actor's warm-up space. So scene room, green room, maybe. Another potential reason is that, as you probably know, many actors get nervous before performing, and so sometimes with that comes getting nauseous. And so when you are feeling sick, people say you look green, so the green room is perhaps the place you go when you're trying to get over your nerves before you go on stage. Maybe. There's another theory that has to do with makeup, actually. A long time ago, before we had the type of stage makeup we have now, you had to apply the makeup and then let it sit and cure before you could actually go on stage. Otherwise, it wouldn't set properly. And so before the makeup was cured, it was actually sort of green. And so the thought there is you had to go and sit quietly in the green room to wait until your makeup was set before you could go on stage. The final possibility I have for you is from Shakespeare's time. And so during that time, actors would get ready in a room that was full of plants and shrubs because it was believed that the moisture in those plants and shrubs were good for the actors' vocal cords, good for relaxing their voices. And so it could be that it's called a green room because it was full of green plants. This is one you may not have thought about before, but have you heard the phrase, "in the limelight"? Usually if somebody says, oh, that person is in the limelight, that means they are succeeding and they are in the spotlight, basically. But that does actually have a root in theatrical history. So it used to be, before we had our modern day lighting systems, that lights were made in a number of different ways. First there were candles, but after candles happened, but before our more modern spotlights, people would use this chemical compound, calcium oxide, aka quicklime, and they would actually burn blocks of that, and that would produce this really bright light. And so they would burn the quicklime, or lime for short, and create a spotlight for the performer. So being in the limelight at the time was you were literally in the spotlight on stage. The one you've all heard of, but maybe haven't looked into, the Macbeth Curse. I know, I just said it out loud, but I'm in my house, not a theater, so we're okay. So you probably know that saying the word Macbeth, or the name Macbeth, is really bad luck in a theater, and there are some reasons for that. Supposedly it stems from there being a curse on the play, and so often what will happen is people will avoid saying the name of it. They will call it the Scottish play, or Macbeth in some cases, or the Bard's play, referring to the fact that Shakespeare wrote it. So especially my younger actors out there, if you've heard the Scottish play and you're like, what is that? That is Macbeth, but you're not allowed to say it in a theater. A lot of theaters have their own way of undoing the curse if you do say it. A lot of times that involves running around outside the building, spinning in circles and spitting or saying silly things. In high school, hi Brad, when we said it, we had to go outside the theater, spin around 3 times and say poo-poo head. And of course that magically made the curse go away, so we were fine. But there are some reasons that people actually believe that play is cursed, and that's what I want to get into now. According to folklore, Macbeth was cursed from the beginning because, as you may know, if you've read the play or you're familiar, there's a coven of witches in the play, and they have the whole double, double, toil and trouble set of lines. Probably heard those. But supposedly, the incantations the witches said were actual incantations. So there were some actual witches that got very upset about it and put a curse on the play. Again, this is all folklore. I have no idea if it's true, but that's where some of these legends stem from. So, got a bunch of angry people, put a curse on the play, and then a bunch of bad stuff happens. So, legend has it that the original production of Macbeth in 1606 did go really, really badly. The person playing Lady Macbeth died suddenly. And remember, at the time, all of the roles of women were played by men, and so Shakespeare himself supposedly had to jump in and play the role at the last second. Another rumor from that original production is that there was a mishap with props, and so there was a real dagger instead of a prop dagger, so when a certain character gets stabbed, the actor actually died because he was stabbed with a real knife. There was this famous riot that happened in 1849 in New York City called the Astor Place Riot. And so basically it was caused between these 2 actors, one English and one American, and it resulted in over 100 people getting injured and 20 or so people dying. But here's the wacky part. Both of these men, the actors, were playing the role of Macbeth in different productions at the same time while this went down. Other productions have been plagued with accidents, including actors falling off stage, people mysteriously dying, even narrowly missing being hit by falling weights, which was a real documented thing that happened to Sir Laurence Olivier when he was playing in this show in 1937. Is any of it true? Most of it is not documented. I don't know. You decide. But all the same, I would recommend avoiding saying the name Macbeth in a theater. And since we are talking about some sort of spooky things this week, the next one I want to share with you is the ghost light. Now, a ghost light is a common theater term, and it refers to usually a single light bulb on a pole sitting in the middle of the stage, and it's left on all the time. So if you're not working on a show, everybody finishes for the night, the theater is closed down, the ghost light will go onto the stage and it will stay on all night long. So practically speaking, that is to avoid injury in case you have, say, a stagehand come in after hours, then they're not going to, say, fall into the open orchestra pit or run into scenery and hurt themselves. So that makes sense. In our theater, rather than have a light bulb on a pole, we do have lights along the fly system and we leave those on. That's our version of a ghost light. But it's called that because some people say the ghosts of theaters come out and use that time and that light to be seen on stage when nobody else is around. The final piece I have for you tonight is theater. Is it theater with an ER or theater with an RE? So I'm sure you've debated about this or know people who have, but really what it comes down to, I've done the research and they're both correct. Some people make the distinction that theater with an ER is the building that you do the stuff in, and theater with an RE is the actual art that you're putting on. But that's not consistent. There's not actually a hard and fast rule about it. So the closest distinction we do have is that theater with ER is generally preferred, or you'll see it more frequently in American language and productions. Theater with an RE is usually what you'll see anywhere else in the world. So that's where the distinction tends to lie. And that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of history on some myths and legends, maybe some history and some not actually verifiable history. If you have any ideas about what else you would like to see on Rose Theater Weekly, please let me know in the comments below or on my Facebook page. Also, remember, I have a shiny new website I would love for you to visit, rhsdrama.com. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. If you're one of my students and you're having a hard time this time of year, I know it's crazy and it's tough, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Until I talk to you again next time, have a good one. Stay safe.